Greetings, everybody. This is Subin Dimitrov, aka Dinsville the Astro Wolf, and it is a pleasure to have you guys here for this next video. So, I'm showing you guys a really cool artwork piece that I got of the Grinster. Originally, he's technically kind of a character that already exists, for the game Little Laughters, or at least it was artwork of it done. But I wanted to make my own kind of alternate, reality version of the, Grinster, so that's why I post fun stories of the Grinster and Shefe in this alternate timeline, and I got kind of like my own version of the Grinster created. And as you guys can see, he still boasts those tufts of fur that hang in front of his face, with the thick fur and the other tufts that are around his face. Give me a second, guys. Yeah. But yeah, so this is kind of the original concept that I kind of went off of, and I wanted to make something similar to this, because this is the original artwork voiced by oh, piss off, Florian Shabang and Yin is, or however you say that name, and then there's the design by Ducky McDuck. What a weird name, Ducky McDuck. So weird. But yeah, so pretty much as you can see, he has the fur tufts, that big creepy smile, the big creepy eyeballs, kind of this like weird disheveled look, kind of all creepy and all that. But yeah, then so I wanted to kind of make my own fun version of him, for my storyline. So I want you guys to know that the artwork is not just a blatant, copyright or anything dumb like that. But yeah, because I have two copies of the picture. But yeah, so as you can see, he has the large ears, the thick fur, large broad muzzle, strong jaw, and then he has the big creepy glowing eyeballs. And then he has the fur tuft pushed to the side so you can see his face. And it's supposed to kind of give him a semi kind of creepy vibe as it focuses on his jaw. And then here he has fur that kind of looks like it's speckled with blood. Grinyans look like they have are covered in blood sometimes. So this is kind of like a fun way to have him created. Despite him, being such a terrifying creature, in my storyline, he has a very special spot in his heart for Shefe. So he takes care of Shefe, as the Grinyan corruption slowly starts to tear through Shefe's body, and Worry and sorry, not Worry, the Grinster and Shefe spent a lot of time together. So I mean, I think that's pretty darn cool. And yeah, these little things here, in this little area are tentacles. And you can see that they are kind of different color. They are speckled throughout his fur. His body technically has thousands of like tiny tentacles around him, but then around his around like maybe his neck or mouth, he has more tentacles to allow him to be able to maneuver objects or feel things. And then if he opens up his mouth, then he can pull things into his mouth and munch on them or do whatever he needs to. And so in this one, he's kind of baring his fangs a little bit, looking defiantly at whatever target he's looking at. So that's why you can kind of see that he's just kind of baring his fangs a little bit. But yeah, he has a large, broad muzzle. I wasn't sure what kind of nose would be a good idea to have for him, so I made a kind of a fluffy nose for him. I commissioned this artwork, so it's not my artwork because I don't have this kind of artistic skill. I have the vision, but I don't know how to put it on paper. And then he has two large canines facing downward, and then upper canines are usually hidden by the upper lip. He has a wider muzzle, so that's why the teeth kind of seem to fade a little bit into the mouth. But his teeth and his muzzle are kind of like a wider U shape. So when he actually grins at you, you can see that creepy smile curve upward, which kind of gives him a very unsettling appearance. Um, Give me a second. Let me see if I can go to the animation. So, yeah. So, you can see that he is um he has a larger, thick muzzle that kind of shows um kind of his look, kind of that he has a very broad head, big ears, kind of this like wide, strong body. It's kind of as if you mixed like bear with a an oversized bear um with a kind of a gorilla. So he can kind of shuffle around on all fours, and that's primarily what he does. But when he's alone or with only certain people, he fully stands erect at around 12 feet tall and like 2,400 pounds of just pure muscle and fur. And yeah, usually what he can do is that he can harden all of the muscles in his body to become like pretty much impervious to attack. So you can punch him in the face, and your fist would completely break into 1,000 pieces. But if Shefe wants to pet his face and just kind of mush his face around, then the Grinster can allow that, and Shefe could just like mush his face around. Like Shefe really loves mushy, fluffy things, so the Grinster puts up with Shefe just kind of playing around with him with his fur and stuff. But yeah, he's a large creature. He often looks so these are AI filters that I kind of run them through to kind of bring them to life, kind of the animation. So this is by Kling AI. If you guys want to go ahead and take a look at it, I don't know what this poor misshapen face is, but supposed to be representative of Shefe and the Grinster talking to him. Yeah, this big old creepy boy. But yeah, as you can see, he has the fur tufts on the side of his head, and then that other fur tuft pushed to the side so that way he can see Shefe better. He often has that flicked behind his head, kind of as like an extra mane, but then so that way he can interact with Shefe. But when he's not around Shefe, he flips that central fur tuft back in front of his face as he shuffles around. Um, and in my story, Warai is terrified of the Grinster because the Grinster has incredible power. And even though the Grinster was technically made after Warai came into existence, supposed to be kind of somewhere after like the Great Flood or wherever, uh, uh, the Grinster was made to be incredibly intelligent and wise, and he was supposed to technically be a good guy. He was made to be a mentor, supposed to help keep humanity in line and help guide people in the right way. But after things kept on falling through, and after other things, he got corrupted. So now, thousands and thousands of years later, he meets Shefe, and he starts to become a mentor and a friend to Shefe because he forms a very deep bond with him. So he often looks at Shefe with great appreciation and care because yeah, Shefe and him are very, very, very close friends. Oop. But yeah, there are times where the Grinster is more sadistic. And this is kind of one of the ones where he is kind of taunting his prey before going in for the kill. And he doesn't have eyebrows. I don't know why I give him eyebrows. It's kind of stupid, but yeah, he often has like a twisted smile on his face, and he sometimes like makes like weird gyrations to kind of terrify his victims before he goes in for the kill. And yeah, he's a very large creature. I don't know why I keeps giving him kind of more of a humanoid body. That's just kind of how the AI just kind of uh defaults to, which is dumb, but all right. But yeah, so yeah, so but yeah, so pretty much you can see that he will often look intently at whatever target he has, and then it's like because the thing is that he's not like normal villains that just kind of do their own thing, that kind of like taunt their person, and then the guy gets away. The Grinster knows you can't get away, and he usually just goes in straight for the kill. He actually is surprisingly a very humble creature, at least in my storyline. Uh, he's usually a very humble creature that uh, doesn't take pride in himself. That one of the things that he hates the most, despite kind of falling into evil, is pride, and he hates lying. He can't stand those two factors. So when he laughs at you, he's not doing it out of pride. He's doing it out of your pathetic attempts to escape, because he, he's coming after you, and there's nothing you can do. Like, no force can stop him, pretty much. No matter what you do or what you try to do to stop him, he just gets you. So he's not, making himself bigger or better than you. It's just like, hey, I'm a predator, you're my prey, and you can't stop me. And that's what happens. So, yeah, he's quite a terrifying creature. And then this one, he just kind of finished, like he probably hunted an animal, and now he's showing you his big mouth, big jaws. It's kind of a fun little animation styles, but it kind of gives you a sense of very creepy, chaotic energy in him. But yeah, his past, actions are inexcusable, but with what he's done to help Shefe keep himself together, and by showing that kind of kindness toward Shefe, it kind of gives him a sense of a new purpose. Um, but yeah, it's fun though, because he's usually a creature of great malevolence, and Worry is supposed to be kind of the ruler, the overseer, kind of the uh, the person in charge in Worry's realm. But Worry just kind of pretty much stays out of the Grinster's way, because the Grinster has already been set apart from the normal Grinyans. He has his own sentience, he has his own morals and ethics, he has his own emotions and everything. So yeah, in his earlier life, in the earlier millennias, he was known for being very barbaric, very hostile. Um, all Grinyans were terrified of him. He broke off one of War-Eye's horns and stabbed it deep into War-Eye's side multiple times. And there are a couple legends and on like what stopped the Grinster from killing War-Eye. One could be it was God saying not yet, and then another one, well, or stopping the Grinster because the Grinster had a different purpose, or the other one was that the Grinster wanted to leave Worry alive as a warning to like not step in his way. So even though War-Eye is like way bigger than the Grinster is way stronger per pound and per size. So yeah, that's one of the things that kind of terrifies War-Eye is the Grinster ripped off one of his horns and stabbed him mercilessly numerous times, and yeah, so that's why War-Eye kind of keeps his distance from the Grinster. Like I said, this is my own alternate timeline. This is not off of the lore of the Little Laughters. It's just pretty much an alternate timeline. You guys know how people make alternate video games of Undertale or alternate video games, stuff like that. This is just kind of like my own version of Little Laughters, story based. But yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and check out the original inspiration for this, go check out Little Laughters. I forget who the artist is. It's like these German artists that make like a Japanese style game, and it's weird. Like they actually have like songs for it too, and it's kind of a fun vibe to it, and in this storyline, you know, throughout, the history up until about 2,000 years ago, the Grinster was known for being extremely malevolent. He would pit entire civilizations or empires against each other. He would lead countries to war against each other. But there's different skeptics, different thoughts of how those started. Some were that he had to do those because those would be set, into motion the future events that would happen. And other ones was just him, wanting to see humanity burn each other and, destroy each other. So he wouldn't, he would usually wouldn't go out of his way to actually, uh, rid people off the earth himself. He would usually have other people attack each other because it's just like, hey, cool, it's chaos and carnage, and it's fun to watch. And then about 2,000 years ago, at least it's kind of like I said, this is kind of like my storyline, still kind of a work in progress. Then he he then sees a giant star in the sky, kind of starting the first Christmas, and he was curious about it. And he heard legends. He followed kind of Israel off in the deep. I mean, off in the distance, watching what they did. From the first start, from the Exodus to Egypt, from Egypt all the way to the Promised Land, and all that. And then when Jesus was born, he was curious about them, and because he had heard the stories that were written down, and then like he watched the actual birth of it because he was curious about it, and he was he was like, hey, this is coming true. All these things that have been put in the scriptures is coming true. And he has always had like a deep curiosity of that, which is one of the reasons why, at least in my storyline, he would follow very closely of the scriptures development, and seeing numerous prophecies and things come true. And then he actually got to meet baby Jesus. And you would think a creature of incredible malevolence and terror would try to do something bad, but something in his heart just changed. He was curious and just um the you know Mary and Joseph showed no fear. And yeah the first thing that baby Jesus did was was gently touch the nose of the Grinster, and was happy with the soft texture of it. At least kind of, like I said, this is kind of like my own storyline. This is not like, probably won't be biblically, it's not biblically correct, but it's just kind of a fun way to kind of bring the Grinster's lore into into I can't really imagine a storyline without God in it, because I'm a so it's kind of a kind of a fun alternate reality. Um, but yeah, so the Grinster, when that happened, smiled, but not out of evil, but kind of just like, oh, this is nice. And he just started to just immediately like Jesus from the start. And Mary and Joseph weren't scared because God was was with them and kept them strong, and was like, hey, don't be afraid. He's not going to attack. And yeah, the Grinster, spent a little bit of time there, and would check up on Jesus every couple of months or so, and would watch his growth, and would just watch him constantly, kind of like an overseer. If something dangerous tried to come near him, he would ward it off. And yeah, and he actually helped pave a safe way for Mary and Joseph to leave Bethlehem before King Herod got rid of all the babies. And then yeah, it's just like he immediately liked liked Jesus. He liked him, so he wanted to help him out. And yeah, so then the history continued to grow, and he would actually walk with Jesus a lot of the times when nobody else was around. And the first time that Jesus actually spoke to him, it wasn't out of anger or hatred for his past or what he's done. It was just like, hey, you have a bad past, but your future can be completely different. And and the Grinster was surprised and shocked that that pretty much God himself was talking to him saying, hey, you have a purpose. You did things in the past, but those work together in my plan to move these events forward. And Grinster was like, oh, because he felt Grinster was just like, I am too broken to ever be even noticed or messed or pretty much just straight, going to hell. But then, like I said, this is just another disclaimer. This is just, not exactly supposed to be biblically correct, but it's still, kind of fun, story, alternate, universe, kind of storyline. But yeah, so so then the Grinster and Jesus would talk more and more, and they formed a very close bond, and the Grinster would be happy. The Grinster doesn't really know happiness. He knows the pleasure of hunting down a prey or causing mischief or destroying empires. But when he actually started talking to Jesus, he started to form a very close relationship. And it was fun because, he would be spoken to out of care and love instead of, hatred or, condemnation. And it was surprising to the Grinster because that's kind of all he knew was just destruction and chaos. So the Grinster has always been wise. He was gifted a supernatural blessing of wisdom, which was why he's supposed to be a teacher and a mentor. So the Grinster learned so much during those 33 years that Jesus was alive, before his death and ascension. And when he unfortunately had to watch, the crucifixion, he had every urge in his body saying destroy pretty much the entire continent, kill everything and anyone and everything. But, a soft voice spoke to him saying, remember, you've known the scriptures longer than anyone else has. You've watched the development of it. You've watched, the first, stages of its development after the Great Flood. So don't act on your anger. Just wait. Remember, you'll see everything come together. So the Grinster, under a shroud of supernatural cloaking, kind of, being able to hide in plain sight, pretty much, watched. But his heart was full of anger and sadness that his friend was being killed. And then he waited, but then, he remembered the scripture. Then when he was reminded, and stayed watch over the tomb, hidden until that third day, and he saw the stone roll away, Jesus walk out, and then boom, and then to fast forward time to the transfiguration, and then the ascension, and the Grinster was like. The Grinster was sad because it's like, no, my friend's gone. Because, during those 33 years, the Grinster pretty much stopped almost all of his malicious activity and malevolence. And so, he was sad, but, before, Jesus left, legend says that he told the Grinster that he would send him a friend in the future, so that way he could have somebody to care about and have somebody with him. So the Grinster, for 2,000 years, watched and waited, and he pretty much he still did the occasional malevolent act or the occasional act of sadism, sadism, not Satanism. No, he hates demons. He hates the devil. He hates Satan. But there was times where he would act upon, kind of that like deep-rooted evil that kind of took hold of him for so long. But yeah, like throughout throughout the next 2,000 years, he would occasionally orchestrate one empire to take out another, and things like that. But that was was nowhere near as malicious and malevolent as he was on such a grandiose scale. It was more localized if he ever struck out. But he was told, grow as much as you can in wisdom. Continue to read and see all that is around you, and learn. And the Grinster continued to grow in vast amounts of wisdom, both spiritually and worldly. And he would always find new things being revealed to him. So, about 2000, 25, 26 years later, uh, a new friend came into his life called Shefe. And Shefe uh, was this broken human who just had so many different problems wrong with him. He had, so many surgeries. He also one of the things about the Grinster is that he deals with anger a lot. He is a very wrathful and uh, anger-filled individual. When he lashes out, pretty much mountains tremble. Like he has ripped apart countless Grinyans in his anger. He has, like I said earlier, pretty much stabbed War-Eye mercilessly with his own horn. Um, he pretty much, yeah, he's just known as just this terrifying dude. And then, like I said, Shefe, well, the first time he saw Shefe in War-Eye's realm, he was curious about the human because he didn't sense the normal prey tendencies that a human would normally emit. Shefe was just curious, but because he was blind in one eye, Shefe you know, would kind of have to feel around and see things and look around the best he could, you know, and his brain would just work differently. He wasn't just like any normal. He had like some kind of blessing on him that really stood out amongst the other billions and billions and billions of humans that he would see. So he kept careful watch over Shefe, warding off the other Grinyans from attacking him. And when he saw, when Shefe saw Heckle for the first time, which was one of the Grinster's very few close friends, Shefe, after what's the name, Heckle, squatted down in front of him to take a look at him, to take a look at her. I mean him. Oh my gosh, got the people mixed up. Shefe would start petting her soft face, and was just enjoying her soft muzzle, And Heckle, kind of giggled a little bit because she sensed the human's kindness toward her, even though she's kind of never known kindness, because the other Grinyans kind of mistreat her and don't treat her well and are mean to her and make fun of her because she's different. So, Shefe just starts, petting her adorable face, and just, it's like, ah, you're so fluffy. Smush the big old fuzzy face around. And then he just gives her a little kiss. And Heckle likes this, and she gently nuzzles him and tries to give him a kiss back. But she doesn't know how to give kisses very well, so she kind of does that like weird thing that horses do with their lips. They just go meow, meow, kind of with her lips. So she kind of tried to do that to Shefe. So Shefe was giggling because her lips are fluffy, and yeah, the Grinster chuckled to himself because he's like, oh, this is cute, kind of being like, oh, this is unusual. A human never acts that way toward Heckle. So after Shefe's next few visits to War-Eye's realm, and it's not really figured out how or why Shefe gets teleported to War-Eye's realm occasionally, but the Grinster would always make sure Shefe would get out safe and sound. And after about the fourth or fifth time, Shefe would hang out with Heckle and just give her pets and kisses. Let me see if I can find find Heckle. Oh, there you go. Okay, so this is the other floating option. That's actually kind of nice. Okay, that's weird. Oh, that's so much better. I needed to find a way how to do that. But anyway, this is Heckle. And yeah, she actually would squat in front of Shefe like this. Play again, and then go away. And yeah, this is kind of what she did when she first met him. And Shefe would just give her cute little kisses on the nose and be like, "Oh, you're adorable." And, Heckle immediately liked Shefe. And, the Grinster was surprised about that. Because Heckle's kind of creepy. But, she has a beautiful tail, a nice nice slender body, kind of a cool face, big old creepy eyeballs. This is staring at you from the void, from the abyss of darkness. But yeah, that's what she would do. She would. By the way, credit goes to Peppercorn. Yeah, Peppercorn. 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 How the hell you say that name? Because there's no E after the P, but whatever. After the third one, and then a voice by Luminia. Luminia. There you go. But yeah, so Heckle kind of pretty much stays the same in my story. I might get a concept character art of her done, but yeah, pretty much Shefe, Shefe, just enjoys hanging out with her and gives her hugs. They hang out. She likes to pick him up and carry him around. She stands at around 11ish, 10ish feet tall, which is why she kind of needs to squat down. She's kind of this like long, slender kind of Grinion, so she's kind of spindly, but she's still incredibly strong. So yeah, she is known as a omnimorphic in my story, which means she can sprout tentacles out parts of her body. She can form an extra pair of arms if needed. She has incredible adaptive abilities. So if somebody uses a knife to attack her, the next time she can learn a bit more how to defend herself from that knife, and she becomes harder and harder to hurt. And the Grinster, realizing this, and she was supposed to be a concept made by Warai, who was supposed trying to make a weird, unusual Grinion that would be very spindly and very effective at what they would do. And Heckle would learn a lot from her various run-ins with the other Grinions, and the more the Grinions would try to hurt her, the more she would be able to defend herself. By the way, Shefe loves to like wrap himself up in Heckle's tail, and Heckle enjoys just like holding him close and like a nice little fur burrito, and just likes to give him kisses. Sometimes she gets a little bit overindulgent with the kisses, and Shefe has to like push her face away because he can't focus. But it's adorable because she shows appreciation for this little human and is always happy to see him when he comes by. But yeah, so yeah, pretty much the Grinster then shuffles up to Shefe one day and appears in front of him. And Shefe originally, was initially kind of scared because he's like, oh my goodness, there's a big giant creature in front of me. Am I going to get hurt? But, the Grinster just stayed there staring at Shefe. And Shefe would just, was looking at him very curiously. And after what felt like eternity, Shefe, just being a curious, individual who was, slowly reached out his hand and gently placed it on the Grinster's nose, and immediately started to smile because it's like, oh, his nose is soft and squishy, it's all fluffy, and it had almost that same kind of like, oh, so the Grinster gently shuffled his way directly in front of Shefe, and kind of brought himself down all the way to Shefe's height, kind of laying on the ground like a bear does, so that way he could look at Shefe eye to eye. And yeah, Shefe just starts playing with the Grinster's nose and just fluffing up his fur, and then it's just like, oh my goodness, your face is fun to play with. And the Grinster, although expressionless at first, started to smile a little bit, because being pet on the nose kind of give him flashbacks and memories. So then Shefe, just being the strange dude he is, just because, like I said, Shefe doesn't function like a normal human. He's very awkward, kind of so Shefe just like just like Jenny places his face on the Grinster's nose, and it's just like fuzzy. It feels nice, and just like starts mushing the face, mushing the big soft muzzle around even more. And the Grinster, it's just like, hey, this brings back certain memories, and sees that Shefe is kind of a kind individual, and somehow that also unlocked a certain part in the Grinster's heart, and was just like, all right, I'm gonna take care of this little human, just keep watch over him more, and yeah, in the following years, they became super close, and Shefe and the Grinster both share a major factor in their makeup. They both strive for wisdom. They both strive for continual, enlightenment and growth. They both continue to strive to become better, and they both work to stay humble, and they both hate liars. And occasionally, Shefe would say the occasional white lie, and the Grinster would, gently remind Shefe that, he needs to be better than that. And, yeah, it's really, really cool because Shefe and the Grinster become very close friends, and, the, eventually, they become the best of friends. They are inseparable. The Grinster, desires to hang out with Shefe as much as possible, and Shefe wants to hang out with the Grinster as much as possible. And yeah, and they just have like a very special friendship. And as time goes on, Warai, starts to like Shefe. The Grinions start to enjoy having Shefe around, and yeah, Shefe kind of becomes like a celebrity. Because usually the Grinions feed off of people's despair and terror, and they go out of the way to cause, you know, bad things to happen out of malicious and malevolent intents. But with Shefe, they somehow had a different vibe. Whenever Shefe was happy, they would feed off of energy that was many, many, many times more powerful than what despair could ever bring. So when Shefe was in a bad mood or angry or sad, or had any kind of negative emotion or thoughts, the Grinions would feel it. And they would start to get concerned because it's like, hey, we can't feed off of this. It's bad. So they would actually go out of the way, kind of out of necessity, to try to make Shefe happy. Like they would make sometimes funny face at him. Sometimes they would I give him cuddles because they know he likes soft, fluffy things. Occasionally they would try to give him kisses because it's just like he likes to give them kisses. Uh, Shefe is kind of a very affectionate person, so yeah, it's cute. And eventually they started to form a relationship with Shefe, not just out of necessity, but they actually enjoyed having him around, and they saw him as a friend. And Shefe was actually known as like pretty much the only human to actually become a friend so widely with the Grinions. And you know, uh, this is kind of funny because usually the Grinster is hated by anyone and everyone. Like everybody's terrified of him or they're scared of him. He would have like many countless people try to curse him or cast him out or other horrible things. But in this storyline, uh, and the Grinster explained this to Shefe, more years in their friendship and relationship was the first thing that Jesus did was pet his nose, and the first thing that Shefe did was pet his nose. And the Grinster was just like, I think you are the friend that Jesus was talking about. And Shefe was like, huh. And then the Grinster went over the next couple months explained to Shefe all the amazing things that he saw, and the development of the scriptures, the development of world events, all that has come true and transpired, all that is waiting to come true and to transpire. And it was an amazing discovery for Shefe. And it's like, hey, cool, I have a purpose, because Shefe deals with a lot of issues, and with the Grinion corruption. So let me see if I can pause this. Give me a second. So Shefe was given put this in quotes, gift by Warai. It was supposed to be a supernatural ability because Warai also enjoyed having Shefe around and was like, "Hey, Shefe's kind of cool. I kind of like having him around." So, out of semi-maliciousness, but also just appreciation for the human, Warai would give Shefe, a thing called Warai's Wrath, which was a very powerful weapon, a terrifying weapon, uh, of like incredible destructive capability. And what it is that it's a weapon that is based off of anger and wrath. The more angry Shefe gets, the more powerful this weapon becomes, and it feeds off of his anger. And Shefe, also like the Grinster, deals with anger on a daily basis, and he has done very well at holding that back. But unfortunately, it becomes a compounding effect with Warrior's Wrath. So, whenever Shefe gets angry, his arm starts to turn red with like red energy, and like claws start to form on his left arm, and then his elbow to his shoulder becomes white, much like the markings of Warai. So you know so it's a terrifying and like wicked weapon. It's a weapon that's made to cause incredible amounts of horror and torment to happen. If Shefe ever uses that against somebody and focuses his anger into that individual, the person is directly attacked spiritually and physically. Like their body starts to break down, they start to undergo unimaginable senses of doom and terror and torment. It's just like it's everything bad that can happen to you does happen to you, and the person quickly deteriorates at astronomical levels. Like just like holding that onto somebody for about 30 seconds can cause irreparable damage. And there's only a very, very small handful of times where Shefe actually broke somebody using that, but usually the other person kind of had it coming. One time there was a predator, a child predator, that Shefe finally had enough of that person, getting away with crime. So he found the individual, used Warai's Wrath in its fullest extent, in its fullest power, and the person expired after suffering what felt like an eternity of agony and torment, and pretty much a horrifying and evil weapon. Just a terrible, terrible weapon. And unfortunately, uh, another gift that Warai gave Shefe is that he took out Shefe's bad eye, his right eye, and put in one of his own eyes into Shefe's. And his only condition of doing that for Shefe was, I would like to be able to see out of it. So Shefe, seeing no harm in that, was just like, sure, I'm fine with that. Because it's just like, I get my eyeball fixed. That's very nice. And Shefe thought, Warai was doing that just out of, just being nice to him. And, Shefe kind of was a little bit naive. He was just like, he likes to try to see the good in people, or like good intentions, because, he was actually treated well by Warai. Warai would like bring him little delicacies here and there. Would like give him like a little bit like a bowl of ramen here and there. Would just kind of keep watch over the human, and and technically it was out of good intent. Warai actually did want to give Shefe an eyeball that worked for him, and he says that it's connected to Shefe's soul. So as long as Shefe is alive, he can see out the eyeball. So he could get punched in the eye, shot in the eye. He could have like his entire face malformed, and he would still be able to see, because Warai knows that not being able to see is Shefe's greatest fear. So trying to actually do something out of appreciation for Shefe, not only being a source of energy to feed off of for his Grinions, but also actually kind of liking the human, he did that. But unfortunately, Grinions and humans are incompatible. and a very malevolent, like I know a very malignant corruption started to spread through Shefe's body internally and then externally. So unfortunately, with the mixture of the of Warai's wrath and that new eyeball that Shefe got, by the way, that eyeball also glows. It's just like a big old glowing eyeball. So it doesn't have a pupil, which is kind of off-putting to people. So sometimes Shefe wears a eye patch, but like Warai can still see through the eye patch. To kind of be like a little bit less creepy, and people are like, "Hey, what happened to your eyeball?" And Shefe's like, "Oh, my eyeball kind of got messed up, so they had to like just make it all the way white." Like he would like make excuses because it's like I made a wrong choice about saying yes. So originally the Grinster was about to kill Warai. He's like, you have pretty much doomed my friend to destruction. I will destroy you. But again, he was stopped. And, Warai, actually showing lament for what he did to Shefe, would go out of his way for the foreseeable future to try to keep the corruption from claiming Shefe. So, unfortunately, Shefe would start to fall apart, and like more and more parts of his body would start to like devolve uh, into like necrosis. Like the Grinyan corruption would kill whatever part of the body that it was touching, but it would not focus. It would stay away from vital organs and things that would keep Shefe. And it was so Warai would often have to yeah, that was a weird burp. Sorry about that. Warai would have to give Shefe a special venom from his own body. So like Warai would have to like Warai he's huge. Like Shefe only stands to about uh if Warai had his nose on the ground and his head point straight down, Shefe would probably reach about somewhere where his ear is. So Warai is just this massive wolf, and one of the things that Warai would have to do is that he would have to hold down Shefe and like peel off the dead flesh from his body. So and often he would have to like drug Shefe so that way he wouldn't squirm around or scream, as he would have to integrate new uh it's called like it's pretty much called Grinyan grafting, where he would have to like graft new pieces of Grinyan components into Shefe's body, and you can see the size of Warai compared to this human, and yeah, Warai would have to have the Grinster help hold Shefe down as they would like take out the dead pieces of his body and replace him with lookalikes that were made out of Grinyan or ascended Grinyan. There's like two different levels of Grinyan. There's ascended Grinyan and then there's regular Grinyan. And the ascended is like what Heckle or the Grinster are. They are their own creatures with their own sentience and are under their own power. Most of the other Grinyans are kind of extensions of Warai, or kind of creatures that are very easy to tell what to do. Kind of not exactly a hive mind, but they all have their own sets of emotions and thoughts, but they are very easily connected to Warai. So so yeah so as the years passed, Shefe would slowly start to lose more and more of his humanity until like only like his brain, his heart, and his skin was like what was left. So, and even then, you guys know that like skin condition that causes like spots, like different pigmentation to show up on your body. So it looks like a part of you is black and part of you is white and part of you is like kind of like a strange like brownish color. I forget exactly what that condition is called. I think it starts with an S. Um, I think it's called sclera or whatever it is. It's like a skin condition where it like messes up your pigmentation. But pretty much, that's what happened to Shefe, except these would be like reddish hues skin, so it looked like he would have been like burned badly. So, yeah, Shefe would often have to like wear long sleeves or long pants, and you know, because most of his body would have like these horrifying skin grafts that would be pieced together to keep Shefe alive. But during this time, Warai and the Grinyans really appreciated having Shefe around, and they thought he was just this very special person. And like it is, the Grinster, realized that Shefe was that friend that God had told him about earlier. And that really changed the Grinster's life. And the Grinster was going to do whatever he could to keep Shefe alive and well. And they did amazing things together. They would learn so much together. They would often have wonderful meals together. And, this is, and like, Warai, after, gaining the proper amount of appreciation for Shefe, would actually have, since he's the kind of the ruler of Warai's realm, his own pocket dimension, pocket universe, Warai would invite Shefe to eat with him as well. And, Warai and Shefe would have these wonderful conversations about things that are happening in the world, things that are happening with Warai. They would have these beautiful Japanese dishes, ramen, tofu, all these different wonderful dishes that are spread far and wide. And Shefe would be able to eat some of the best food that has ever existed. And Warai would enjoy seeing the human happy. And the first time that Shefe was invited, he was very kind of timid because he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm eating here," and he didn't want to eat the food, but he was very quiet. But the second time Warai invited Shefe, trying to hopefully gain a better relationship with a human, Shefe asked if he could pray over the meal. And Warai, kind of being this evil and malevolent wolf, looked at Shefe in shock and was like, "Come again?" And Shefe was like, "I would like to pray over the meal. This is good food, so we should bless it." And Warai, shocked, because all the other people that he had ever tormented would curse him would say bad things to him, and would try to do bad things to him. And Shefe was the only human ever to actually say, to pray over a meal, and something that he provided. And Warai thought for a moment and was like, "Okay," and watched Shefe carefully, curious. And Shefe just said a very happy prayer, saying, "Thank you for this food. Thank you for my new friend Warai. Thank you for this awesome food that has been meticulously prepared. We pray that you would bless it." And Shefe was praying directly to God. And, and Warai could see the Holy Spirit inside of Shefe. And he was curious and was just like, "Whoa." And, he actually did sense a new presence there while Shefe was praying. And the food just became all that more delicious after Shefe was done praying over it. And Warai silently looked at Shefe as Shefe looked back up at him. And Warai just was like, "Huh. Thank you for your prayers, Shefe. Never had anybody pray over me before." And, Shefe was just like, "Yeah, I mean, you're doing something nice for me, I don't have really any power or authority, but I can definitely pray for you." And Warai kind of was taken aback by this. He had only known hatred and disgust and anger and all the bad things, so actually having somebody pray to the entire creator of the universe to bless him for what he did for them, that's a very special thing. So Warai gained a really newfound respect for Shefe and wanted to be around him a lot more because of that. Was just like, "Oh, this is what it's like to actually have somebody care." And Shefe and Warai kind of respected each other, not out of a forced respect, but actually they enjoyed each other's company and would value each other's insight. And Warai is a very prideful individual who often is deceiving toward his victims. He promises false things, all these different things. But for Shefe, it was quite different. And so Warai is often very possessive, selfish, rude, very outspoken, very quick to anger, very ready to punish people who step out of line. He often eats his own Grinions if they don't do what he wants, and he makes sure that the other Grinions watch. He's very cruel and sadistic, but with Shefe, um, he just, appreciated Shefe, and, because Shefe would actually, appreciate him. So, he thanked, Wari, saying, hey, thank you for this awesome eyeball I have. I can see now and not have to worry about going blind. And then, when one time Wari was like walking past Shefe's quarters, Wari made Shefe a little home in his realm so that way he would be able to have like a little place for himself. And he heard Shefe praying, saying, thank you for the day, thank you for this, please continue to help me improve in that, help me to do well in this. And then he said something unexpected. He said, thank you for Warai, thank you for the cool eyeball that he provided, thank you for providing the eyeball through him, and yeah, I just pray that you bless him. And we would say blessings, and prayers for Heckle and for the Grinster and maybe a few other Grinions that were kind to him. And in fact, those good things actually did happen. Uh, the Grinster started feeling a sense of warmth and calmness over him that he had not really felt in 2,000 years. Uh, Heckle started to, started to, come out of her psychosis and would be able to think more for herself. And, Warai noticed that some of his scars under his fur would start to heal. And like Shefe would actually ask Warai if he could pray over those. And some of them would actually disappear. And, Warai was in shock because it's like, oh my goodness, these scars I have borne for millennia are disappearing. And in fact, legend says that, it was revealed to Shefe Warai's broken horn. And but we'll get to that later, like maybe like a different video. But yeah, Shefe just kind of became a centerpiece in Warai's realm. And yeah, and as it is, Warai is usually extremely selfish. So him actually sharing not only his food but resources and time with Shefe was a huge sign of respect. He wouldn't even do that for his own Grinions. He would often make them, forced to hunt for themselves or eat each other. And even his own shaman, his most trusted individual, he would rarely ever share food with, and would often be very critical of. But with Shefe, he was very freely giving towards Shefe, and when Shefe would go to work and sometimes would forget his lunch because he had to rush out the door, Warai would quickly pop out, of a portal, this nice warm bowl of ramen for Shefe to eat. And sometimes he would send like a little Grinion over to Shefe to help deliver it. And people realized at this point that Shefe had incredible supernatural influence and authority. Even though Shefe had no like legitimate authority, he had a lot of influence in Warai's realm, and that means he could ask a lot of things to happen. And Shefe realized this later on. It's like, oh, I need to be very careful because if I ever ask a Grinion to hurt somebody, they'll actually do it. And Shefe realized that he had to very quickly temper his spirit and his heart, otherwise he would fall into a very dangerous territory of becoming very powerful and then harming other people because of that. So, oh, shut up. I thought I deleted that option where it's just like, like stop notifications and stuff, but obviously that didn't happen. That's annoying. But anyway, so yeah, Shefe would sometimes sit on top of Warai's head, right over here. You guys see the little finger dots? He would sometimes sit on top of Warai's head, and would just look out over the landscape of Warrior's realm. Despite the kind of the eerie drone of laughter and cackling and creepiness inside that realm, Shefe would often feel at peace because, he wasn't targeted. In fact, Warai would do what he could to bless Shefe and kind of give him little gifts here and there. And in another video that I'm going to make, there's a thing called a blood blossom. A blood blossom, which is made out of the entrails of vanquished foes or harvested grinions or the flesh of humans that he has captured and destroyed. And these flowers blossom out of it, called the blood blossom. And they produce a special fruit that only Warai ever eats. Nobody else has ever eaten, and even the shaman is forbidden to eat it. And Warai, out of a token of appreciation and friendship for Shefe, would give him one of those. And it has supernatural properties, being able to restore Shefe's sanity, restore his vitality, kind of give his body a quick burst of supernatural healing to kind of reverse some of the effects of the corruption. It's this superfood. And Warai usually keeps it only for himself and only for special occasions. But, when Shefe does something very nice for the Grinster, like, wishing him like a happy 12,000th birthday or whatever, and, giving him like a little gift from the human world, or just little things like that, Warai would appreciate that and would give back to Shefe. And it's just like, hey, thank you for this or that. And when those little scars would disappear, Warai would give Shefe these blood blossom fruits. And so it's this kind of strange, kind of chaotic appreciation that they have for each other, and and that's just kind of where the storyline is currently. It's just Shefe and Warai, and the Grinyans and the Grinster just kind of are just this happy group of individuals. Now the Grinyans are still malicious and evil. Like, they'll still go after anybody else. But if Shefe wants them to stop attacking somebody, or is around an area where they are, they will actually vacate out of respect for Shefe. And that that gives Shefe great influence, but also appreciation that they realize that Shefe doesn't like that kind of behavior and wishes to do good onto other people. And they usually vacate or they stop and just stay with Shefe to watch over him to make sure Shefe is okay. And occasionally people would try to stop Shefe from living because they're like, oh my goodness, he has connection to these creatures, we gotta make him stop. But Shefe is kind of the reason why they were stopping. And also, the Lord's blessing over Shefe's life, of course. But yeah. And then Warai realized that Shefe would need more abilities and powers, and one night secretly, Warai would graft 2 eyeballs, one on Shefe's left shoulder, one on Shefe's right shoulder. And these 2 eyeballs would be under Shefe's complete control, and these would allow Shefe to see a person's soul and see what their weaknesses are, see what their strengths are, see what their shortcomings are, see aspects of their life that would be valuable to Shefe to help him in his in whatever he does. And Shefe used these abilities extensively to help guide people toward Christ. Now, these were technically born from a evil individual, but Shefe was able to use this power for good. Now, unfortunately, it was slowly killing him, but Shefe was like, hey, my days are numbered, but if I can bless other people with this stuff, then I want to do that. And he would use this incredible knowledge and insight that he was given by these amazing eyeballs to be able to do that. And, it's said that, he saved hundreds and hundreds of souls from eternal destruction. So it's kind of cool that even though Shefe has kind of become a physical abomination, he can still use the skills and abilities to not only save lives but enrich those around him. And Yeah, and God would even give Shefe opportunities to do so. Now, outside of Shefe's occasional psychosis and fits of rage due to the corruption affecting his brain, he would do great things with with these gifts. And although Warai wishes nothing but destruction for humanity, he was happy to see that Shefe was using it in a good way, and would often applaud Shefe for being effective in using those abilities. Because for Grinyans who have had thousands and thousands of years to use their abilities for evil, Shefe was able to use them for good with much more effectiveness and a much higher success rate. So, although kind of a myth to that Shefe wasn't using it to hurt other people, he was also very proud of Shefe, kind of going, "Hey, that's impressive. Keep up the good work." So yeah, although Warai, still is malicious and evil, he would often put aside his own desires to try to help Shefe. And there was one time where a church had to be built, and it had to be built in this area where building supplies couldn't be sent. And Shefe was like, "Hey, I would like to ask you a favor. I know that you're not on the side of humanity, and you kind of want to see everything to be destroyed, but I really would like to bless these people. I know that you have the resources available. Could you help me bless them?" And Warai, although kind of frustrated, initially frustrated with the request, realized that he was helping out his friend Shefe, and would say, "I'm not going to do this very often, but I want to help you this time." And it happened. The church was built. All these creepy red little creatures, these running like gremlins of all sizes, ran around with endless supplies of resources, and they built not only the church, but they built the entire complex in record time, and up to extreme code, meaning that these were not cheaply made. These were made to the highest levels of uh, of standard, meaning these would last for hundreds of years if given the proper care. So, even though Warai initially didn't want to help out the humans, he did so to help out Shefe, and not only did he help him out, he did it to the best of his ability. And even Warai was there directly; his physical self was there, watching over this. And people were initially scared of this, but after Shefe explained what was going on, Shefe was like, "Hey, when God calls, even Satan himself must answer, and that means everybody else in between." And the people were, although still terrified of Warai, were like, "Oh, okay," and they initially were thankful. And Warai did appreciate their thankfulness for that. So he did a respectful bow to them, and then after the all that stuff where all the entire complex was built, a school, a little hospital, a library, the church, temporary housing and stuff until the other houses could be built. The Grinyans and Warai left, and Shefe was left behind to kind of oversee things. Now, by this time, Warai gives Shefe the ability to teleport in between realms at will. So, up until for like the first year or so, Shefe had to rely on the Grinster or Warai or very few select Grinyans to teleport Shefe to and from Warai's realm back to Earth. So by this time, Warai was like, "Hey, once you're done with all this, come back and we can have a nice meal together." And Shefe was like, "Sure, I can do that." So then Shefe would just oversee everything and would minister to the individuals, and many more lives were saved because of this. Now, on a happy, fun, friendly note, Warai has a big old tail, kind of a weird big old tail. But by the way, guys, none of this artwork is mine, and none of these characters are really mine. Remember, this is kind of like an alternate universe storyline, so yeah. Warai has a big old tail. And sometimes, and the first time Shefe was playing around with his tail, Shefe was sat down on this tuft right here, and then had this tuft wrapped around his torso, this tuft wrapped around his torso, this one on the left side of his head, and this one on the right side of his head. So then, so Shefe was just like, "Oh, it's so comfy and soft and squishy." And Shefe, enjoyed, playing around with it. And Warai, who was initially asleep at the moment, woke up to see Shefe had wrapped himself up in Warai's tail tendrils. And initially annoyed, he, Jenny lifted up Shefe with his tail and sniffed him. And was curious to why Shefe was playing around with his tail. And Shefe was just like, because it's fun. It's all fluffy. And it has these cool tendrils. And Shefe was just, was playing with the tendrils that were wrapped around his torso. And Warai, usually incensed because he doesn't like people touching him, was just like, huh, just no funny business. And yeah, no funny business happened. Warai just pulled the tail next to him so that way he could like watch over Shefe. Shefe was kind of like around here on Warai's body, and Warai just had his muzzle like resting gently against Shefe as Shefe would pet his face. And yeah, so now occasionally Warai will walk by Shefe, grab him with his tail, and walk off. And Shefe's like, "Oh, all right, guess I'm going, guys. See you later." And the other Grinions are like, "Oh, okay," because the Grinions are just like, "Oh, Shefe is being grabbed by Warai. Bye. Stay safe. Who doesn't eat ya?" And yeah, so Warai just kind of does funny little things like that. And Warai also loves muzzle rubs. So sometimes Shefe will stand in front of Warai and like rub his muzzle where the whiskers are and where his nose is, and Warai just it just seems to enjoy it. It's kind of a nice sensation to him. But yeah, so it's kind of the backstory of like the Grinions, the Grinster, and kind of like my alternate universe of Little Laughter is kind of like my version of it. Um, like I said, original inspiration credit goes to Little Laughters and all the respective artists of these screenshots and artwork that they have done. None of this artwork is mine, so don't worry. I'm not claiming any of it to be mine. But it's kind of cool artwork. I think it's kind of cool. Uh, but yeah, it's just kind of a fun alternate storyline reality, which is kind of fun. So I like the way that this one's done because the big tail with his tendrils actually looks like a big claw, so that's kind of cool. Kind of gives it like a really cool vibe. But yeah. So throughout all this, Shefe's soul continues to shine brightly, and he blesses not only his fellow humans with it, but in turn he brings a lot of blessings over to the realm of Warai as well. And in fact, Shefe has actually liberated many individuals from Warai's grasp, and brought them back to Earth for safety. And although Warai is annoyed by this, because like, hey, quit messing with my stuff. Chef is just like, well, I mean, I'm here, and they came across me. I can't see anything and everything. You still have people, and Chef had to like word it carefully so that way. Oh my gosh, you freaking broken! I hate this thing. Give me a second. Freaking butt pickles. I think the thing broke, but yeah. So yeah. Trying to think. Uh, but yeah. So Warai, realizes that he kind of needs to let Shefe do his own thing, even if it does interfere with his stuff a little bit, because keeping the human happy not only lets them feed off of his happiness, but also keeps a strong relationship with them. And they want Shefe to stay around because they like him. They enjoy having him around. And Warai enjoys having him around. So Warai actually makes quite a substantial sacrifice in order to keep Shefe around and show him appreciation. So it's actually really cool because, you know, uh, you wouldn't expect a creature as selfish, malicious, and prideful as Warai to actually do something like that. So, it shows a very special part between Chef and Warai that Warai would be willing to do that. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the up to current part of the story. And yeah, that just kind of just kind of want to give you guys more of a updated background of like the story and the stuff that goes on between Shefe and the Grinsters and the Warai. Because that's one of the characters I've done the stories on, and I'm sure you guys were like, "Hey, is he going to release any more stuff about the Grinions and stuff like that, or Shefe?" So if anybody is, go ahead. There should be another one, and there's a couple more stories I've written about Shefe and the Grinster and War Eyes. So I plan to get more of those done. I do sometimes use ChatGTP to help revise my stories because I have ADHD. I tend to repeat myself a lot. I tend to be kind of chaotic in my storytelling. So ChatGTP helps me keep all the facts, but also say in a way that's not like, oh my gosh, this guy's so annoying to listen to. Does that make sense? Because, yeah, having a storyteller with ADHD is aggravating. But yeah, I'm a very detail oriented person. I'm trying to give you guys abridged versions of like the different stories because just like if I go into it, it's going to take like a 7 hour video. But yeah, this is probably one of my most favorite artworks because look at how soft and fuzzy the Grinster is. He's all fuzzy, got a big fuzzy face, just mush that face around. Unless he's coming after you to kill you, then you're just screwed. But yeah, he's super fluffy, like mega fluffy, like super fluffy. Everything about him is like soft and squishy, and like Shefe loves to like get to like to give the Grinster cuddles because he always enjoys just like how soft the Grinster is. So I'm using Drogariu as a reference point just because she kind of has like the best artwork for it. So imagine we are looking at the Grinster. The Grinster has a large muscular body, kind of just this big freaking beefcake of a creature, just all muscle, all fluff. But what the Grinster likes to do is that he likes to hold Shefe to his chest, right about kind of in this area, like underneath his neck. So that way he can gently rest his head and neck around Shefe's head. And then what he does is that he has usually his left arm under Shefe to give him something to sit on, and then he has his right arm wrapped around Shefe uh to hold him close to him. And then his large, just like massive tail, uh, will be wrapped kind of like in front of Shefe. So the Grinster will be like sitting down, and will have his tail pulled up in between his legs, so that way he could have that resting against Shefe. And then so that way Shefe's kind of in this like warm cocoon of fluff. So so the Grinster's tail would be going up and up over his chest, so that way you know uh, Shefe's head can like peek out from the fluff. And then that's kind of one of the ways that he likes to hold Shefe because it keeps Shefe safe, it keeps him protected, and also keeps him warm. And if it's a really hot day, the Grinster can actually emanate a special energy that whisks away heat and actually cools them down. So no matter what environment they are in, Shefe will always be at a comfortable temperature. And that's and yeah, it was actually said that in legend that the Grinster one time when Jesus was grieving would hold Jesus like that to comfort him and be like, hey, I'm here if you need somebody to talk to. And so this kind of brings back special memories for the Grinster because now Shefe is that special friend that was told that he was going to be. uh and yeah, the Grinster cherishes Shefe not only as a person, as his friend, but also because of the prophecy that he would get a friend. So, Warai, no, sorry, no, Shefe, oh, heck, the Grinster, um, the Grinster cherishes this gift pretty much from God because just like, hey, this is a very special person that, has been set aside for me to have her as a friend. And I get to have a very fruitful relationship with them. And Yeah, and they do, and it's a very, very special friendship. And yeah, so it's just kind of, I think it's kind of cool. And yeah, these are like all the different commissions and things that I've bought. This one was done because this one's supposed to be reminiscent of Nakama and Yujin, which are the two wolves that Warai made for Shefe, as his ever-present protectors and watchdogs. So they are these like two giant wolves that are pretty much carbon copies of Warai, but they have like slightly different markings. But they have the big horns, the big creepy teeth. But they are very protective and bound solely to Shefe. They don't have any connection to Warai except that they were made by Warai for Shefe, and that shows another level of Warai's respect and appreciation for Shefe, that he actually gives Shefe his own companions that are specifically built only for him. And this is Godspeed. I've posted a couple of videos of Godspeed, and yeah, a long story short, Godspeed was supposed to be a creature made for incredible evil and destruction, but it was as if the great creator's hand, or God's hand, was directly in the middle of that, and was like, nah, we're gonna set you aside for someone else. And it was just like pretty much Borai kind of made this as a taunt toward God, saying, "Hey, I made something that is called Godspeed, but yeah, it's bad and evil." And God's like, "Heh, nope." And it's just like, you know, just pretty much turn that compass 180 degrees. Although Godspeed does still have some semi sinister tendencies, he overall is a pretty swell guy, and he is a kind of a symbiote. He's a symbiote, so he kind of takes hosts over, and yeah, and unfortunately, over the few thousand years he's been alive, he's kind of caused many people or creatures to expire because he's just seeking for a proper host. And that's when Shefe comes along. Shefe becomes his new host, and they merge together beautifully. And Shefe is kept alive, and he's like, "Oh, I'm actually not killing my host this time. This is special." And Godspeed and Shefe become very, very close. And Godspeed is also known with to have incredible intellect and wisdom, but nobody can surpass the Grinster in wisdom. But Godspeed comes in a close second. He's incredibly wise. He's very intelligent. He seeks to help out others when needed. He often rescues lost children in the forest or wherever. He tries to lead rescue forces to people in need. He goes out of his way to be a good creature. He still is a predator though, so he does sometimes still messily devour prey, and he does have semi sinister parts to him that kind of make him kind of creepy. But overall, he's a pretty good guy, and he does his best to try to help people and others. And when he finally meets up and bonds with Shefe, their friendship is unbreakable. And Godspeed can fly at unimaginable speeds, and now they have fun, and it's great. And it's just a very special relationship between the two. And yeah, Godspeed is a I actually bought this artwork from somebody called Oliver. It was an art piece that they did, and was the only one of its type, if I remember right. And they were like, "Yeah, you want it?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, this would be awesome for Chef's companion friend." And they're like, "Awesome!" And then I make stories off of Godspeed, and yeah, he's really cool. I freaking love Godspeed. He looks awesome. And I actually had my profile picture as Warai for a little bit, just because it was kind of cool, kind of the big old creepy wolf. And then I shifted it to this bad boy because this guy's a good guy. He has a lot of problems, but he's a good guy. And yeah, during that time, somebody made me free artwork for my birthday. So technically, this is Warai, but we could have it as like Shefe's ascended form. You know, once Shefe finally turns full ascended. But yeah, it's kind of fun. But yeah, I think it's cool. So yeah. Um uh yeah, I guess that would kind of like conclude the video, but yeah, that's kind of the reasoning behind the Grinster and kind of getting some artwork of him done. You know, it's awesome finally having my actual own art piece of the Grinster, of like my version of the Grinster, because it kind of it gives me rights to that version of the Grinster, because I feel kind of bad using other people's artwork as concepts. So whenever I do get the money, I do try to get commissioned artwork of like my version of that character or my character in a different situation, so that way, I mean, I guess technically me, you know, uh, you know, giving credit to the artist or saying this is not my artwork still gives people the opportunity to see the artwork. So kind of gives the original artist exposure, even if I don't know their name. But yeah, this person did a great job at on the Grinster, and I'm very happy with this artwork. He looks awesome. He looks so cool. And look at that, he's so fluffy. Just want to like rub my face on his face because his face is fuzzy. Remember, the Grinster is huge, so like he could like take like pretty much your upper body and just mouth go nom nom nom. The Grinster has a larger head to body ratio. I mean, it's not like obscenely big, but like how like bears are kind of big and powerful. His head's a little bit bigger, kind of, so he can kind of let's go munch. He does sometimes like to playfully nibble on Shefe, just because he likes to nibble on things. And sometimes, the first time he did that to Shefe was like, "Oh, please don't rip my arm off." But the Grinster chuckled a bit and was just like, "Hey, this is fun." And just gently munched on Shefe, not hurting him, but still, having that nice sensation of having something inside of his mouth. So just like kind of nibbling on different parts of Shefe, kind of like, this part tastes different than the other part. Shefe's just like, this is weird. So it's a kind of fun, because remember the Grinster is still a predator, so he still has predatory vibes and kind of likes to playfully hunt Shefe. But yeah, they have a very sweet friendship. It's cute how the Grinster goes out of his way to do nice little things for Shefe, and they actually play Minecraft and games together, and it's a very fun, because they're extremely wholesome videos. It's just two good friends having fun playing Minecraft, and just they're not trolling each other, they're not doing bad things to each other. They're just having fun playing Minecraft and just doing their own little things, doing bed wars, or you know, doing mob battles or things like that. Pretty much, Shefe decided to go similar to what popular MMOs did, but it's Shefe and the Grinster instead of Pat and Jen. And yeah, it's just it's cute, because it's just you have the Grinster with his kind of creepy two voice type voice, and then you have Shefe just this happy little human, kind of what you guys are hearing out of my voice right now. And yeah, Shefe and the Grinster just play, video games together and just have a great time, and are just this happy, wholesome video creations, and they are very well loved around the world because of just their happy, wholesome content. Despite both of them often being surrounded by horrible evils and atrocities that, would break a normal human, they are a very fresh breath to the world. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of heartburn. But yeah, so it's super super sweet, and it's I think it's kind of a fun aspect that the Grinster knows pretty much anything and everything of the world, because that way is what he does. He observes and learns. So he's like, oh, I know how to play Minecraft. So then Shefe and him play Minecraft, and they have a great time, and they often come in clutch for each other. They install different mods, they install different, game modes. They do a whole bunch of different really fun things. And since the Grinster and Shefe both have supernatural abilities, they can actually force their own mods into Minecraft and turn Minecraft into a completely different game, and it becomes super super fun. So yeah, they always have a lot of fun finding what ways they could affect Minecraft or the games that they are playing, and then they can pull that mod out because it's a supernatural mod. So even though it uses similar controls to Minecraft, it's an extension of their own being put into the game. And yeah, so Shefe is supernaturally really powerful. Like he's really powerful. He has War as Wrath. He has incredible ability to you know see into people and see what their intents are, what their shortcomings are. He can see their weaknesses. Like Shefe has incredible supernatural ability and power. So it's really cool that he's able to do that. So yeah, I'm sorry that this video went so long, but yeah, it's just kind of a fun, more background of the Grinster, more background of Shefe, kind of the relationship between the Grinions and Shefe, and just happy fun thoughts and memories and things like that. Oh, give me a second. This guy here doesn't like Shefe too much. Now he doesn't go out of his way to hurt Shefe, but he was kind of a Wara's right hand man and overseer of the underworld. So seeing Shefe being treated better than he is kind of makes him kind of resentful of Shefe, even though he kind of just deals with it. But he's just like ugh. But he realizes that if he does anything against Shefe, Warai would tear him to shreds. So he's just kind of like, I mean, and like Shefe, actually does try to extend friendliness toward him. It's like, hey, sorry for getting inside your game, but I hope we can still be friends. And eventually, they have a mutual, well, not exactly mutual, but kind of like an uneasy friendship, just because it's like, fine, this human's trying to be nice. I'll try to be nice back to him, but he still is a little bit resentful of Shefe, but he's kind of just puts up with it. Uh, this big creepy boy. Um, there are occasional times where he does like pick up Shefe and just kind of examine him, feels along his body with like his big creepy hands, and sometimes Shefe like pets his face and it's like, you're all fuzzy too. You're fun to play with, but yeah, he has big creepy hands and big creepy face and a really long neck. But like a lot of creatures, they do have scratchy spots. So sometimes Shefe finds like a scratchy spot that kind of makes this Grinion kind of feel nice. So he's just like, fine, I'll put up with it. So he kind of appreciates Shefe, but he's just kind of like ugh. kind of so yeah. Shefe doesn't push himself onto the other Grinion. He's just like eh. And when the other Grinion kind of reaches out to him, he's like, oh hi, what's up? Stuff like that. Another character concept of a Grinion that also likes Shefe. She likes to give him hugs as well. She's kind of she's sweet but also terrifying. Like she kind of likes to just go after people and kind of torment them. But yeah, she's all fuzzy. But yeah, likes to pick him up and give him hugs as well. She's kind of like she kind of acts in a way like that sweet kind of like southern African American grandma is to like with children. She like kind of picks him up and calls him her honey or like hun bun or whatever. She kind of is like that protective Southern grandma kind of vibe over him. So she, it kind of gets a little possessive and hisses at other people that try to like interact with Shefe or other Grinions. But yeah, it's fun. Shefe has like fun friendships with each of the Grinions, and it's silly. It's fun. And initially, Little Grin and Shefe fought each other. Little Grin kept trying to attack Shefe, and Shefe finally had enough. So he used War-Eye's Wrath against Little Grin, and that terrified Little Grin because Shefe pretty much slammed one fist going from his right hand to the left direction, and he slammed War-Eye's Wrath into the upper jaw, while his right fist went into the lower jaw of Little Grin and pretty much tore Little Grin's lower jaw completely off. And the force of War-Eye's Wrath slamming into him sent him flying. And yeah, Little Grin was terrified because he realized that his face got mangled by that single attack because Shefe launched the full might of War Eye's wrath into him and kind of ran away crying. And Shefe felt horrible. He's like, "No, I hurt somebody." And Shefe does whatever he can not to hurt people. And you know, Smiling Cindy, when she saw that, was just like horrified because she's like, "Oh my goodness, Shefe got angry." Oh, so she kind of ran after Little Grin, trying to, you know, take care of him. And Shefe was like, "Oh, what do I do? What do I do?" And yeah, Warai was like, "Don't worry, I'll fix it." And Warai was actually kind of impressed with Shefe, and he wasn't even mad. He was just like, "Heh, nice job. You didn't let him push you around." But he was also like, I'll go fix it." So yeah, Smiling Cindy wasn't very happy with Shefe, but she kind of also understood why he did that. And Warai kind of talked with Little Grin after talking with him for a while, and was just like, "Hey, Chef is a good guy. Don't attack him. He's just trying his best to exist. He has to deal with us, so just try to make his life a little bit more easy. All right." And Little Grin, realizing what he was doing to this human was wrong. Surprisingly, he was like, "But don't I attack all the humans?" And it's like, "Not this one. This one's special. You be nice to him." So when he met Shefe again, he was very timid and kind of slowly. You know how like a dog, if they're scared, they kind of wiggle their butt toward you and like walk backward because they're afraid you're going to do something, or they're just kind of timid. That's kind of what like Little Grin did. He would just kind of like crawl backward towards Shefe, look back at Shefe, then kind of crawl back a little bit more. This kind of made Shefe giggle because it's kind of this cute gremlin little creature, this little fuzzball, kind of like crawling towards you in a very weird fashion. And Shefe just starts to giggle and thinking it's funny. And the Little Grin, realizing that what he's doing makes Shefe giggle, starts to giggle himself and starts to, crawl in other various ways to kind of see if he can make Shefe smile. And yeah, after that, Shefe apologizes for pretty much breaking Little Grin's face. I'd say Little Grin in my storyline is about 3 to 4 feet tall, maybe 4 feet tall. But yeah, he just effing haymakers Little Grin. So yeah, after that, Shefe apologizes. It's like, "Sorry, I shouldn't have let my anger control me." And Little Grin apologized to Shefe in this adorable little voice, kind of going, "Yeah, shouldn't have a tattoo. Sorry." I mean, he kind of has like some mentality of a child, but also the intelligence of a seasoned predator. They kind of have that kind of like kobold type vibe, if that makes sense. You know how kobolds are they're smart but also very dumb at the same time. That's kind of how like little Grin is. And like Smiling Cindy, when she saw this, respected Shefe again, was like, "Oh, they made up. Oh, that's so nice." And she realized that when she saw Shefe's wrath, War Eye's wrath in his arm, she was like, "Oh, that's why he lashed out. Oh, that's bad." So she kind of put back her previous misconceptions of Shefe, kind of going, "Ah, Worry messed him up. Darn it." But yeah, it's kind of funny. Here's another artwork. This is not my artwork, not my artwork, but this is kind of another look of what like the Grinster is. Just this big hulking mass of muscle and fur, and you can see that giant tail behind him. So yeah, in my storyline, he has like a longer face, big muzzle, and stuff like that. But yeah, he's just kind of this like lumbering, hulking, muscular mass of anger and fluff that just kind of moves his way through the hallways. And don't let his slowness, deceive you. He could very easily act as fast as lightning, and suddenly you find yourself in pieces within a split second, or he appears behind you. Like, he's terrifying. He will do. Yeah, he is not slow by any means of the imagination, but he sometimes just goes slow throughout uh, Warai's realm because he wants to kind of give the other Grinions and even Warai a false sense of security. So when they start to act out of line again, he then shows them his full form and they're like, oh crap, and then bad things happen and then they get scared of him again. So Warai is kind of the Grinster does this. So Warai and the other Grinions are just like every time they see him because they're like because it's that like person that punches you every time they see you. And so you're just kind of afraid of them because you like, don't know if they're going to hit you again or not. So yeah, I just kind of it's kind of messed up. This one is one of Shefe's best Grinion friends. This one's adorable. I'd say this one is about 5.5 feet tall, and they're just very fluffy. They're very squishy. They're pretty much everything that Shefe likes in a Grinion. They're just fluffy and soft and squishy. So Shefe and this Grinion love to give each other cuddles because they're just so soft. They have a pretty big head. It's like kind of like a goat type Grinion, but yeah. This Grinion hangs out with Shefe all the time, and yeah, they have fun conversations. Shefe kind of does most of the talking. This one is not very talkative. They have very limited speech, but yeah, I mean they're still incredibly intelligent. They are a great predator, and yeah, they just hang out with Shefe, and if Shefe is in trouble, this one will come in and help defend him. So it's actually quite sweet that this Grinion comes in and helps defend Shefe. So but yeah, this is one of Shefe's best Grinion friends, and yeah, they have a lot of fun together. And sometimes Shefe would like share the ramen that Warai made for him with this Grinion, and sometimes with the Grinster, who usually unfortunately turns it down because he knows that Shefe needs to eat it, and also, Warai doesn't like it when Shefe shares with other people. It's like, this stuff is for you, not for the other people. They'll get their own food. And Shefe's like, oh, okay, sorry. And Warai's just like, you're a kind human, but just don't share your stuff with them. Just let them get their own stuff. And Shefe's like, okay. Kind of worried of what Warai would do. So he just kind of has to like keep that stuff to him or share when Warai is not around. But yeah, it's it's kind of funny. But yeah, this one's adorable. They're just soft and squishy. And last but not least, we have this guy. His name is Snickers. He's adorable. Big old doofy face. Snickers and Shefe met for like the first time, and yeah, they just have fun. It's just this big goof, um, big doofy face, these weird little legs. But yeah, the first time Shefe met Snickers, Snickers was sleeping, and Shefe, just for whatever weird reason, was like, "I'm gonna play with his paws." So Shefe Jenny lays down next to Snickers, who is about the size of like a very big alligator, so he has a pretty large head. So Shefe, just like Jenny, places his hand on Snickers left paw, and Snickers just instinctively pulls that paw underneath him. So Shefe, thinking that's adorable, places his face on the next paw. And it's like, oh, it's so fuzzy, it's so fluffy, and then that paw darts underneath Snickers. And Shefe was just like, I wonder if I can get all the paws underneath a Snickers. So Shefe, just being the weird little human that he is, just starts touching each one of the paws of Snickers until all of them dart underneath Snickers, turning him into a loaf with a tail. So he pretty much turned full loaf. And Snickers, by his time, wakes up and looks at Shefe kind of annoyed, but he just sees the absolute joy and smile on Shefe's face. And he's curious of like why a person other than a Grinion is happy. So he doesn't attack. He's just kind of like, huh? And yeah, Shefe's like, oh my gosh, you are adorable. And Snickers does know compliments, but like in a weird way. And he was just curious of like why. Like, he doesn't speak, but at least in my storyline. But he's just kind of this big doofy, weird goober. Lazy but effective. Snickers designed by Nesuki and voiced by Dungeony. So yeah, credit to those people. But yeah, then out of curiosity, Snickers pushes one of his paws out from underneath him next to Shefe, and Shefe just gently places his face into the fur and gives it a kiss. And Snickers gently pulls a paw away underneath him, and it was just like, huh, I don't feel that urge from other people to attack him. I'm not being told by Worry to attack him, so he doesn't. He's lazy but effective. So yeah, so Snickers, just kind of looks at Shefe, and then Shefe just starts petting him, running his hands along his soft muzzle, kind of like what he did with the Grinster, petting his ears. And then Snickers, after a little while of being pet, starts to walk away, and Shefe was like, I'm gonna climb on top of him and see where he goes. So Shefe just hops on top of Snickers and just goes along for a ride. Snickers stops abruptly, however, and is just curious of why the human's on top of him. But then it's just like, meh, I'll just deal with it, because he's lazy. So he's just like, I'll just keep him with me. He's not causing me any trouble. But believe it or not, Snickers can run really effing fast. Even though he has like small feet, when he gets a mind to, he can run really fast. And that's what makes him effective. People think he's slow and kind of can't scurry very fast, but when he attacks his prey, they just suddenly hear like a whole bunch of little feet just running, and suddenly he's in front of them. And like, oh crap! And then they run the other way, and it says, and suddenly Snickers pops up in front of them, and they're like, oh crap! And then Snickers attacks them, and it's just terrifying because sometimes he crushes them because he's like a big old meatloaf. So he kind of just flops on top of them and suffocates them, or he just eats them. So, yeah, Snickers is kind of a psycho, but yeah, he just kind of just goes when he's wants to go somewhere fast. And so there was one time where War-Eye was kind of sleeping in its like giant bed, kind of this like giant like den type place. And War-Eye is awoken by the sound of like Snickers' little feet just running along. And it's like, what is he doing over here? Because Snickers doesn't usually go around War-Eye too much. And then suddenly he just hears Shefe's kind of giggling, kind of going hey, because it's fun for Shefe. And Snickers is also kind of giggling because it's kind of fun for him as well. And War-Eye opens up his eyes in time to see Shefe just dart by on top of Snickers, and War-Eye just kind of stares at the doorway, kind of like, the heck? And so War-Eye quickly jumps up after like a minute or so of contemplating, and sees Shefe dart again in a view, just kind of going, hey, because it's kind of fun for him. They're just zooming around. Snickers is having fun showing Shefe the different parts of War-Eye's realm, and Shefe is just having a ball, and having a blast of a time. And then War-Eye comes out, sees this, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what do you do, Shefe? Why are you on top of a Grinion? And so the War-Eye summons the Snickers over, and Snickers, knowing he shouldn't disobey, scurries over to War-Eye. But first he Jenny rolls Shefe off of him and then climbs on top of Shefe, keeping him protected underneath him, and looks up at Shefe kind of worried. And War is like, what are you doing? And Snickers is just like, just kind of looks at him awkwardly, not sure what's going to happen next, but still trying to protect his new friend. And War-Eye, realizing this, is like, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt him. He's my friend too. And Snickers, doesn't trust War-Eye because War-Eye usually is a liar. But when War-Eye offers Snickers a blood blossom fruit, that proves to Snickers that he's not lying. So Snickers eats it and gets like a supercharge, and he gets like he feels a lot better. and so he gently, wiggles off of Shefe. Remember, Snickers is like the size of a giant alligator, so he kind of this big old creature. And and then Shefe, you can hear Shefe's muffled laughter underneath, and he's like, "Hey, Rory, how's it going?" Kind of like muffled voice, you can barely understand them. And Rory's just like, "What did you do this time?" And Shefe tells him all the fun little things that Snickers and him has done. And Rory just looks at him with his mouth open, just kind of like trying to process what Shefe is saying. And he's just like, "Why? You're so weird. You're my friend, but you're so weird." And Chef is like, "What? He had cute little paws, so I wanted to play with him." And he's like, "You're gonna get yourself in trouble, I swear." Chef is a very weird little human. But yeah. Oh my gosh, this video has been going on way too long. I need to stop this video. This is what happens when you have a person with ADHD telling you things. It just keeps going. Anyway, I need to stop this video. But anyway, yeah, I just have this adorable grinning the Snickers that becomes friends with Shefe. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's just I think I'll just leave you guys on Snickers because he's adorable. But yeah, this has been my fun little story of Snickers. I mean, of the Grinster, and then kind of bled over to like the background of like the different characters being met with Shefe, and yeah, uh, you know, that's about it, really. But yeah, I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this video. I hope it was somewhat fun for you guys. Sorry that my brain kind of went everywhere, but yeah, it's just kind of a fun background to the Shefe storyline and kind of gives you guys more info on Shefe and the kind of the history of the story and more development and things that go on. So I'll be releasing more videos soon. So yeah, and by the way, I'm on a new antidepressant, so hopefully this one will work a little bit better and I'll be more happy and be more in the run to do things. This one's supposed to help with anxiety and stuff. The other one's a serotonin booster that helps with sleep. This one's a serotonin booster that helps with anxiety, depression, and ADHD and things like that. So, yeah, hopefully it'll help my brain stop, being mean to itself. Yeah. Hey, even people like Christians also deal with depression and things like that. So God gave us the access to medicines and things like that. So we gotta use it. So just make sure not to abuse it. Use it, but not abuse it. And unless it pulls you further away from God, then don't use it. But you get what I mean. But yeah, very happy with that. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoy the video. You guys stay awesome, and always remember, God bless.